The game has finished. Wolverhampton Wanderers 1, West Ham United 2. That tells you nothing of the story at all. We're going to hear a tale of a comeback. We're going to tell a game of two halves, of luck, of, let's be honest, a certain amount of shithousery as well. And it's what was really just, I thought, at times, an abomination of a football match. I've got to just say at this point, I would like to say that I do think that West Ham got away with one at the end there with the Max Kilman headed goal, but I do think we're also owed one because I think we've had some bad VAR decisions go against us. That one went in our favour. We do that to other goalkeepers, Mikel Antonio, all the time. And then most of the time, nothing happens. So I think they can feel, Max Kilman with his headed goal, can feel a bit aggrieved to have it chalked off. But that was a game of two halves. And there was something else I'd like to add to it when I spoke about drama and luck and a lot of that stuff. Self-inflicted damage. West Ham had a lot of self-inflicted damage in this game because, quite frankly, whilst it was a really good comeback in the second half, against the odds with injuries and all that sort of thing, well, we'll get to all the incident. The first half was completely terrible. That is as lethargic as I have seen us in a long, long time. There was a point, I think, up to well into the second half where our highlights were basically a missed kick from about 3 yards from Thomas Souček, who completely missed the ball. And there was another opportunity after half-time, once Antonio had been brought on, where he had a shot from, I don't know, about 18 yards or something like that. The shot was so tame. Look, if you walk to your front door now, you will travel quicker than Antonio's shot travelled towards the goal. That was it. Those were our highlights. It was really, really poor stuff. But we did manage to turn it around. And for that, I am very, very grateful because I've got to say, I do think had we have lost today, possibly even drawn, I think certainly lost, I think it would have been a hard road to come back for David Moyes, and certainly a hard road for West Ham to even contemplate getting European football via the league position this season. I mean, I'll tell you it was bad at the start. There was a point, and it was 17 minutes into the game, where the stats said for that first 17 minutes of the game, West Ham had 20% possession. That's how bad it was. We were lethargic. Our touch and our technique were poor. We couldn't pass it. We were trying to pass the ball and it was going out into touch. It was pretty horrendous, really. And we completely and utterly invited Wolves to attack us. Look, the formation said that, right? The formation said it. And I must be honest, I'm not going to sit here and lie to you. There were points in that game where I'm writing my notes and the knives are being sharpened, particularly because of the team that David Moyes had picked and the way they'd been set out. We had one attacker too few, as always, and he addressed it, and he made 2 half-time substitutions. But make no mistake about it, we got very, very lucky today. Ait-Nouri was the best player on the pitch. We got lucky that he got hauled off. I can only assume he got injured. I think he subbed in for Cunha. He wasn't as good. And a lot of teams, we were lucky. Wolves were decimated by injury. I mean, I think we're missing 5 or 6, a lot of players today. And because of that, Gary O'Neill was playing players out of position. He didn't have that many attackers. Even with Ait-Nouri, they probably wouldn't have lost today. They probably would have won. I think the vast majority of teams in the Premier League would have beaten West Ham today because that first half was just so bad. Absolutely so bad. And look, we'll deal with some of the other stuff in maybe tomorrow's video, because I'm sort of conscious we're 4 minutes into the video and I've not actually spoken about what happened. Anyway, we invited so much pressure upon us. Emerson had to concede a penalty. I think Zuma was well out of position at this point, but Emerson sort of hacked down Ait-Nouri, and it was Sarabia who scored the penalty. Really good penalty. Fabianski had no chance. But up until that point, and it was Fabianski had been called into action far too many times. There's one point where the ball had been passed back to him by Edson Alvarez, and he had to do some trickery. He had to do some dribbling with his feet, Fabianski. Look, you don't want your keeper at any point to be having to do any dribbling or trickery, but if you're a West Ham fan, the one goalkeeper you don't want to be doing that is Fabianski, because he's not as good with his feet as Areola. Half-time, truly awful. Truly awful. Antonio on at half-time, and also Johnson on at half-time for Soufal and Souček. They were terrible. Don't get me wrong. They were terrible. But you could have picked anyone. Yeah, pretty much anyone. I was surprised that James Ward-Prowse was awful in that first half, because we're gonna talk about a resurrection in that sense here in terms of James Ward-Prowse. I don't see what the point is. Played attacking midfield. What I call it, that holding attacking midfielder, that defensive attacking midfielder where he runs around a lot and offers not much at all. He was bloody awful. Predictably, if you joined us for the preview show, what happened was so predictable. It wasn't going to work. Well, of course, it didn't work. But it was evident it wasn't working before we conceded the goal. Once we conceded the penalty, then he moved James Ward-Prowse back up to the left. He moved Paqueta into the middle to try and make something happen. But Paqueta wasn't involved in the game at all. It was awful. Everyone was awful in the first half, pretty much. Maybe Bowen, maybe the two central defenders. Actually, yeah, the two central defenders and Fabianski will come out of that first half with some credit. Maybe Bowen, he did a little dribble set up with Souček for the one that he missed. But by and large, most people were awful. But, James Ward-Prowse was worse on the left wing than he was as the defensive attacking midfielder. Pretty poor stuff, really. And what happened thereafter is Jarrod Bowen got injured. I think the Wolves fans possibly might have thought that he was faking it. Well, he wasn't. Possibly hip. Possibly his hip. Now, funny enough, the hip is something I know a little bit about because my daughter has recently had a hip injury. Basically, a muscle pulled away a bit of her hip during training, during warm-up for a football match, because my daughter plays semi-pro football, and it was 6 weeks. Now, I hope it's not that. I have no information, nothing, but the way he was holding his side, not good at all. Bowen was substituted. The substitution that David Moyes made, and this is where my knives are being sharpened, I must admit here. Who's he bring on? Maxwell Cornet, you're thinking? No. Okay, well, maybe Danny Ings? No. He took Bowen off and he put Aaron Cresswell on. Well, I thought, what the merry hell is going on here? What he actually did by doing that, he changed his shape ever so slightly and he pushed Emerson forward into a more advanced position. Emerson had been crap up to that point. When I say crap, he conceded the penalty and he also conceded another free kick against Ait Nouri in the first half. He was getting torn a new one, and it was not a pretty sight. Hey, when is it ever? Hey, he was getting the type of performance, the type of Mullering, basically, that Vladimir Coufal had got against Newcastle. Then what happened after the Bowen injury and the substitution, Emerson got put further forward like a different player. Like a completely different player. From that point, he was excellent. Player rating is going to be interesting when we do them on Monday over on Patreon, because some players got almost nothing in the first half but got good marks in the second half. And certainly Emerson would fall into that category. West Ham got a bit better. And then what happened was there was this ridiculous decision to deny Emerson a goal. I thought VAR had gone against us. He sort of accidentally trod on someone's heel. It was a good goal. It was a cross from Kudus, who didn't have the best of games, truth be known. And it was a really good header from Emerson. But I guess by the letter of the law, it needed to be ruled out. Then what you had was a penalty, this time for West Ham. Kilman, who was heavily involved all game. It was Emerson, did a lovely dribble. This time he was over on the right wing. No idea what he was doing there. Who cares? Doesn't matter. Crossed the ball over, and Kilman, with a very much an outstretched arm, handled the ball. Penalty. It was 1-1. Paqueta scored it. You know all this by now, but I'm just giving you my take on it. Did the old shuffle, didn't he? Did the old shuffle. And the goalkeeper dived the right way, but it had such precision, such curl into the inside of the post that it didn't matter. Hadn't done an awful lot in the game, but he improved. Wasn't even like a game of two halves for Paqueta. Should we call it a game of 3/3? That's not a football cliche. But the last third, he was very good. He also put over a really, really good cross for Kudus, who fluffed his lines completely. Should have scored. Every other time you see Kudus in this position, he scores. He's sort of had a position where he had a chance to shoot one-on-one with the keeper. Got sort of tangled up. He took one touch too many. He got tangled up under his feet. A lot of these players were knackered. All right, I am aware of that. I am aware of that they were knackered. But I'm not using that as mitigation. I very much blame the manager for that. But I'll deal with that, because ultimately we won the game, and I don't want to overly knock the manager. Not in this video. Anyway, because he ultimately made decisions how we came back and we won the game. But to say we deserved to win that game would not be accurate at all. We did not deserve to win that game. Probably a draw was a fair result at the end of it. It has to be said, particularly with a goal at the end. Anyway, before we get to that, so where are we up to? That's it. Paqueta scored a penalty. That's 1-1. West Ham went 2-1 ahead. James Ward-Prowse scored directly from a corner. I have a little bit of sympathy for James Ward-Prowse. So when he switched to his normal position, so it was Souček that came off and Ward-Prowse stayed on. He could have done either one, Moyes. He really could have done. They were both equally crap in the first half. But it was James Ward-Prowse that stayed and partnered Alvarez. He was much better. Just normal standard central midfield. You know what I mean? As what I know what they call it, the double pivot. Now I don't even really fully understand what the double pivot means. Well, I think we had two central midfielders and a number 10 that was able to roam. You know, and when Ward-Prowse won the two central midfielders, look, we know Ward-Prowse and Souček doesn't work, right? But actually, this worked, and I thought even before he scored directly from the corner, I thought he looked a lot better. So I thought you saw a really different performance from Ward-Prowse in that second half, and well done to him. But the reason I feel sorry for him is he had a couple of free kicks in this game, and it's still hanging like he's got a weight on his shoulders, hasn't he? Trying to match this David Beckham record. He's one goal away from David Beckham's record as the highest number of free kicks. Matching his record, it is, of course, highest number of free kicks in the Premier League. He deserves it for that corner. I mean, he does. I'm not surprised. There'll be one or two of you who remember me saying at the start of the season, when he first started saying corner, said it in a couple of videos, he's going to score directly from a corner this season. He's got it in there. And I only say that, not to say, look, I was right, but so it wasn't a fluke. Because the commentator was saying, maybe it was the wind that took it in there. No, he is capable of doing that. His technique from corners is so sound that it was very, very good. And I was pleased for him. Did his that's a golf swing. Some of you might disagree. Did his golf swing celebration, of course. I was really, really pleased for him. I wouldn't say we were cruising at that point, but we were attacking more than Wolves were. Got a little bit desperate down at the end. Referee gave 10 minutes, which was probably right. I mean, I hate the fact that it is. Don't matter so much 3 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon, but blimey, you know, when you have like an 8:15 kickoff or something like that, you do not want the first half overrunning by 5 minutes and the second half overrunning by 10 minutes when you've got to get the train home, do you? But anyway, that doesn't matter. Today, middle of the day, 10 minutes. I wouldn't even call it massively squeaky bum, but they had a chance at the end. And excuse me, I should have bloody muted that. It's probably James Ward-Prowse now asking for another lift. But he, as I mentioned it, Max Kilman got a header. It's a good header. Scored a goal. They should have had it. It shouldn't really have been chalked off. I'm glad that it did, because otherwise, as I say, I think our European dreams would have been almost dead in the water. So thank you, VAR. I do think we were owed one. Wolves don't see it like that. Maybe I don't know. Maybe they are always badly treated by VAR. But all I can say is, if you're any Wolves fans still 13 minutes into this video watching this, as West Ham fans, we haven't had the best of luck with VAR. So. Yeah, I'm not gonna feel too sorry for you on that, because I do think we were due one. But I think I totally would understand why Wolves fans would feel sorry for themselves, because I wouldn't have liked that chalked off. I have to say, Antonio has done that, stood in front of the keeper so many times, and the commentator got it right. Fabianski was getting nowhere near that. It was a really, really good header. Probably should have been 2-2 that game. Moyes has got away with that one. Moyes has got away with that. It was so bad at one point when Wolves were 1-0 up. It looked like there was no way back for West Ham. It looked like West Ham were incapable. No creativity, no urgency, nothing. It looked like we were incapable. If he hadn't come back from that, the criticism would have been relentless, absolutely relentless. But he did, and that's the most important thing. He did. 3 points. That's really, really good for West Ham. We can push on, and now the European dream is still there. We don't know what's going to happen with Bowen. He can't have another performance like that. He certainly can't have a performance like that on Thursday, because that'll be all over us. We won't even need the second leg on Thursday if West Ham play like that. I do wonder if a little bit was a little bit of lethargy and people reserving themselves and saving themselves for Leverkusen. Somebody did ask that very question in the Patreon breakfast this morning. So maybe, just maybe. I hope not. Anyway, there you go. Wolverhampton Wanderers 1, West Ham United 2.